The following is a presentation of the Matt Talk Podcast Network.
You are now tuned into the PA Power Podcast, College Edition, featuring Rob Waltko and Joe Youngblood. PA Power Wrestling. Pennsylvania is wrestling.
How we doing? Welcome to the Open Room with Joe Youngblood and Rob Waltko. This week's installment, we are going to preview University of Pennsylvania and Bucknell, Rob's alma mater. And later in the show, we're actually going to do sit down and talk with Bucknell's assistant, Kevin LeValley. And I know Rob, came in with him at Bucknell, and like to say a few words about him.
Yeah, Kevin's a great guy. He's a fantastic coach. I don't think a lot of people realize just how good this guy was. Two-time All-American. I don't want to discount that because I never came close to it. But his hit list, he's the last guy to beat Kyle Dake. I think he's the last American to beat James Green in freestyle at 70 kilograms, and he's beaten guys like Jay Jaggers. Just to name one guy, but awesome guy. Looking forward to talking with him about the mighty Bison.
Yeah, definitely looking forward to it as well, and getting down and talking about their season, what they got going on. But first, let's start with Penn as we are continuing our march through the Pennsylvania schools. Penn coming off a season which saw them go 9-8 in dual meets, and they had 4 NCAA qualifiers, and they finished 41st place, at the NCAA wrestling tournament with 5 points. And they had no All-Americans. They had Frank Matty Ice in the consolations round 12 and wasn't able to get his way through. Bad news, Rob, is of those 4 NCAA qualifiers, unfortunately all 4 of them graduated. So we're going to dive into this lineup and take a look, and I'll give some predictions based upon it, and I'll go through a few weight classes and let Rob weigh in on it. But looking at this Penn lineup and scratching the surface and looking at what they have coming back, it's definitely, in my opinion, a building year for them. They have a lot of young talent in their room, and in this last 2 recruiting classes for that matter, but it's not ready to flourish just yet, in my opinion. And I'll talk about that as we go through. But like last episode when we talked about Drexel and we talked with Coach Acevedo, Penn is reaping the benefits as well of that regional training center down in Philadelphia that they share with Drexel. And, again, we talk about all these schools, and once we got away from Penn State in the state of Pennsylvania, I guess Penn State and Pitt are what we refer to as like a Power 5 school because they're in a major conference. But kind of once you get away from them, it's a lot of these smaller schools, and Penn's no different. Extremely high academic standards, higher than that of Lehigh and Drexel, and they're getting a lot of top end talent in the last year or two to come in. So Rob, from that standpoint, it's pretty refreshing, right?
Yeah, apparently wrestlers are also nerds and smart guys as well. But in all seriousness, a lot of these Pennsylvania schools, like you said, are very rigorous from an academic standpoint. Definitely no dummies getting in. Yeah,
and they're getting guys where they can and building that way. So looking at this year's lineup in the 2018-19 season, 125 pounds, it looks like it will be, I'm going to go on and say Doug Zaff, Downingtown kid, local kid to me, is going to be this year's starter at 125 pounds. He is coming off a year, not as good as his junior year when he was a state champ, going 45-2 and win a state title. But solid career nonetheless. Real tough kid. I feel like his style is going to translate well to this level. Tough on his feet and can score from top, and he can ride on top. So I really think that he'll. He's got a good motor too, and he trains hard. So I really think that getting that extra minute is going to be something that's going to benefit him. He doesn't set a really high pace, but he never really slows down either. So he's not like your type of guy that's going to blow your doors off for 7 minutes, but he's not gonna slow down or back down at all in that 7 minutes. And but again, his style will translate well, and he's been training down at the RTC for a while now. However, I don't know. I think he's going to endure some growing pains. As he gets settled into the college lifestyle. But it's rite of passage in a sense. Looking at 133 pounds, I guess it would be remiss if I didn't mention possibility if Doug Zapp does not start and he possibly redshirts, then the starter will be Daniel Planta, and he got some experience last year with the Quakers going 8-7 in his freshman year. Was in and out of the lineup, but towards the second half of the season from December on, he wrestled some matches and wrestled at EIWAs. Doesn't have any marquee wins, but he'll be the guy if Zaff is not. Moving 133 pounds, starter, another freshman, Carmen Ferranti, and Ferranti, is another guy who's coming in this recruiting class. And I guess I should maybe back up and just talk about this recruiting class that some had ranked as high as 12th in the country. And they brought in a lot of guys, and they addressed a lot of needs. Ferranti comes from the storied Bergen Catholic program. He's a 3-time Jersey place winner. And, he's placed at Beast of the East, Doc Buchanan, Powerade, Fargo. He was on 3 state championship teams with Bergen Catholic. So he's been around a lot of winning programs and had a lot of success personally, and looks to be like he could be the guy at 133 pounds, because as with Wrestling Stat and from their roster, they don't have a whole lot there that comes back with experience to challenge him. And, he was addresses a need through recruitment, or he addresses a need through recruitment. So, that's 33, and they go to 41. Gianni Gioni, and I believe I'm saying that correctly, looks to be the starter a year after moving up from 133 pounds. He was 17-9 last year as a freshman. Got to EIWA championships. He did go 0-2, didn't get out there, but he has 17 wins under his belt. The thing that concerns me of last year with the wins, the 17 he had, only 3 were against guys who had winning records. Not that that's a true measuring stick, but it's one of those things I've said in the past in these previews that that's something that needs to change. It's like when we talked about guys in the past where they need to turn those 1-point losses into 1-point wins and turn that corner. Well, he's got to turn the corner a little bit more and beat some guys that have winning records and the tougher guys. He does a good job of beating the guys he's supposed to beat, but this should be the year as the starter at 41, moving up weight class where he starts to beat some guys that maybe he's not supposed to, and gain that confidence, and it can snowball from there for him. As we go to 149 pounds, it could go one of 2 ways, and it's one of those situations, Rob, where it could be in the case of, do they go with the youth movement and they put a freshman in, or they go with the senior who's been around and let that freshman mature a little bit. But Rob and I talked, and we might think that of this recruiting class, that this guy at 149, Anthony Artalona, is maybe possibly the crown jewel of this recruiting class. Senior Joe Oliva is the incumbent, or is coming back for his senior year, but I don't know that he has what he's gonna be able to claim that spot as a senior. Artalona is the 21th overall ranked recruit in the class of 2018 by Intermat. Flo had him 32nd, and he was 7th in the country at 152 by Flo, and so 3-time Fargo national champion. 3-time Florida State champion. He wrestled in Who's Number 1 last year, so he's definitely accomplished at the high school level. And the Quakers are expecting big things out of him. Whether or not he sees that starting lineup is yet to be seen. If I had to venture a guess, I think he is going to be the starter because, I think he's ready. I think he's going to come in and have that opportunity. So, Rob, 25 through 49, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I pretty much agree with everything you said. Artolona is definitely a guy I think they're going to want to get in the lineup. Probably expect him to be one of the team leaders right away. I think the concerns with him possibly could be that he is a little bit lighter on the freestyle, or folk style, than on the freestyle. He's a very, very accomplished freestyle wrestler, but not a ton of big wins in folk style. But between him, Zapf, and the gentleman Gianni at 141 who had a decent year, and then Ferranti, I think they're looking okay with a youth perspective. It'd just be nice to see some of these guys step up and, start getting some wins, get to the national tournament right away. Yeah.
And, as we go through Penn's preview, if you listen to us, if we back up and we talk about Edinboro, and Edinboro had its own set of problems. I think we talked about 6 starters that left the program as Tim Flynn left, and that was one thing. That's something they couldn't control. But what was left wasn't very appealing in a sense. Penn, losing 4 guys that went to nationals does hurt. However, they have guys that are going to fill in, just not right away. I mean, it's going to take them a year or maybe 2 to really, flourish and hit the ground running. Now, again, I hope I'm wrong in saying that, but it's just my opinion because, looking at it as we go through this lineup, they're going to maybe not have any, they might have 1 senior in their lineup, and I'll get to it, maybe 2. But it all depends, and they could be starting an upwards of, in my opinion, like I said, I'll talk about each one of them, 5 or 6 freshmen from this recruiting class could maybe be in the lineup by the end of the season. So, the future is there, just how quick they want to get to it in a sense. And I'm sure Roger Reyna and his staff are more than aware of that, and they're going to do what's best for the team. And, so moving on to 157 pounds, junior John Errico is, from all what we hear, is slated to be the starter. He was 15-12 last year, and he only had limited action wrestling in the lineup and a lot of opens. So, there's a guy who comes in, no real marquee wins, but, could, as a result of, graduation, be the guy at 157 pounds for the Quakers. Moving to 165 pounds, and this is kind of where it gets a little iffy for Penn as we get to some of these upper weights. And you have the starter listed right now. They only have 2 165-pounders listed on their roster. And I don't think Jason Montgomery, the freshman, is going to earn the spot against the junior A.J. Gears. But A.J. Gears has a career record of 1-2. Again, I could be wrong. Also, someone from 57 can bump up. They have some 74-pounders. Maybe some might come down. It all depends what's best for the team. But, if it stays as is, according to what's on the internet, and of course you can believe everything you really read on the internet these days, Gears is going to be the starter, 165 pounds. And, truth be told, not a guy there's a whole lot of information on. And, he's coming in with a 1-2 career record. Is probably going to, have some, growing pains into that starting role. 174 pounds, starter looks to be Brian Krasowski. He's a junior. However, Rob, it's one of those things, we talked about this youth movement and this great recruiting class. I don't know that he's going to be the starter the entire year. Jake Hendricks, an accomplished wrestler out of Wyoming Sem, comes with pretty hefty credentials. I think when it's all said and done, maybe by as early as January could be the starter there. Hendricks, he was a former Greco-Roman cadet world team member. He's ranked number 93 in this class. Placed at Ironman, won the Pan American Games, cadet Pan American Games freestyle. Silver medalist at the cadet Pan American Games in Greco. 6th place in freestyle at the 2016 Nationals. So he's got the pedigree for it. again, we always talk about that level change coming from high school to college. What helps him is come from an accomplished program like Wyoming Seminary, a program where he's exposed to college level training, more so than some other kids and other opportunities. So, he might, in that sense, maybe a little bit more college ready. And then we move to 184. And 184, again, we talk about these upperclassmen. There's two guys on the roster, Jalen Laughlin and Ryan Wosick. Wosick hasn't wrestled since his freshman year when he went 5-11. Laughlin comes in with a career record comes in as a junior. Sophomore year, he's 1-2. Career record of 6-6. As you don't know what happens necessarily. We don't know. We don't have all the information, insider information. Maybe someone bulked up from 174 over the summer with the idea of taking that. Maybe they have someone that is coming in a little bit lighter to drop down 84. I don't know, but right now Jalen Laughlin's the guy, and I think they're going to struggle at 184 pounds with scoring points in dual meets coming from that spot in the lineup. So, Rob, what are your thoughts on 174 and 184?
Definitely think Hendricks is capable. He, like you said, he's a pretty big recruit. Competed on the international stage, not just the national stage. I would expect that he's the guy. Like you said, maybe not immediately, but he'll have that position nailed down by the turn of the year. And then 84, I think, is probably a hole for them. Likely not going to score many points at the EIWA tournament, but maybe they'll surprise us and put on some good performances.
Yeah, moving to 197, you have Robert Ng, the senior. He's 1-5 his junior year. They have two guys listed on the roster, Robert Ng and Gregory Bensley. Bensley freshman recruit from Pocono Mountain, third in the state, placed 8th in the state as a junior, third as a senior, and hard worker, but maybe again in those situations where this guy's going to work his way into the lineup, you don't have a hammer there by any sense of imagination. And being in that Penn room might lend itself the opportunity for him to improve himself and get to in the starting lineup. That Bensley, that is. And again, I we talk about getting these young guys into the lineup. What is it? Is it worth it? Is it not worth it? Rob, what's your thought on getting the freshmen in at the expense of maybe them taking a few more losses than they need to? Are those losses beneficial, or do those potential negatives outweigh the positives? Like, what are your thoughts? I mean, you were kind of, you were there. You've wrestled this level. Like, put yourself in their shoes and put yourself in the coach's shoes. Give me your 2 cents.
Tough spot. Like, you sometimes want to be loyal to the senior guy that's worked hard, paid his dues, but you also want to build for the future as well, right? If I'm in Penn's shoes, that's kind of being a middleman right there. If I'm in Penn's shoes, I wrestle the guy that I think gives us the best chance to win right now. If that's the senior, and even though we're holding the freshman back, so be it. And if it's the freshman and the senior's busted his butt for you, that's how the chips fall. Either way, they're both getting Penn education, so I won't feel bad for either guy. But, yeah, I think wrestle your best guy if I'm in their shoes.
Yeah, you said that loyalty to the senior, and I totally get that, and definitely empathize with that statement and would empathize with that kid. But knowing that when you're coach at Division I level, you're coaching for your livelihood. You got to do what's best for your team. And that's not always easy because, like you said, like there's loyalty and there's you build relationships with these kids. But in the back of your mind, I know for me at least, you got to think about being loyal to this kid and giving him every opportunity. If he's not out there producing, is that repaying me? Is that providing me job security? Just playing devil's advocate in that situation because I totally get that, and that's why I think I'm better suited where I'm at and where I can honor those loyalties. And I'm not looking over my shoulder whether or not I'm going to get fired on performance so much. I'm not raking in the dollars coaching wrestling either. So moving on to heavyweight. Patrick Guerin, senior, he was 10-11 last year as a junior, got injured and didn't allegedly injured and didn't miss the rest of the season. He was backed up by Tyler Hall, who is another senior. But they wrestled last year, and Guerin beat him last year in competition at I believe it was the Midlands they wrestled, or was I had it here. Yeah, they wrestled each other at Midlands, and it was 8-4 win by Guerin, and he then was out of the lineup there soon after. But down the road, looking at it, we talk about this recruiting class from Penn, and Penn did get a very talented recruit at heavyweight from Florida, and they got I had here Ben Golden from Lake Highland Prep in Florida, and this past year he finished up ranked 8th in the country at 220 pounds, but he is going to be a heavyweight at this level. And Lake Highland Prep, another very established school as far as their level of competition and wrestlers they produce. On top of being ranked 8th in the country, he's a 2-time national champion, 2-time Florida State champion, NHSCA champion. I should clarify that. He was a 2017 Beast East champion, runner-up at Ironman, runner-up at Powerade, and no surprise, he's a National Honor Society member. Because going to Penn, you got to do it both. You can't just be a good wrestler. That doesn't get you into Penn. I'm sure it helps to some point, but it doesn't help that much that it gets you into Penn. You still have to do the work in the classroom. So looking at that lineup, it's looks like you'll have Guerin in there starting, but the future's bright there at heavyweight for the Quakers, with Golden waiting in the wings with these two seniors once they clear out. I don't know that Golden, coming off being a 220 guy, is gonna be physically ready for the heavyweight grind at this level. Now, it's just my assumption, and they got 2 quality heavyweights already on their roster. I think this will be a year where Golden takes to get better and work in that room and be ready to go as a sophomore. So, Rob, what are your thoughts on?
Honestly, I wasn't even aware that they got that Golden kid. I had watched him wrestle not a ton, but a little bit this year because he had wrestled Ian Edenfield, who worked out at the Tiger Wrestling Club a little bit. I think they wrestled at the Beast and the Ironman. I'll tell you this about that Golden kid. What he might lack in technique, he wrestles really, really hard. I think, like you had mentioned, Zap, the extra minute will probably benefit this kid. He's got a big motor, especially for a bigger guy. He wears people out. He's tough. He's probably pretty limited offensively, but he's just a physically tough kid. Someone that you'd expect to see come out of a really well-coached, tough program where he's probably just been in battles his whole life in the room.
Yeah, so there as we wrap up the Penn Quakers. I don't want to sound negative, but don't have high hopes for them this year. I have to stipulate, and I really stress this year, just like Drexel, where Drexel's going to have some success this coming season. We already talked about that. We talked with Coach Acevedo. They're going to have success. They got guys in the room that can do it. Penn's got guys in the room who can do it too. They're just a year away. They're not just quite there yet. Now, again, I hope that in March that I hope I'm eating crow, and I hope I'm wrong. But I got to kind of trust my brain on this one. I'm going to say they're going to be somewhere. If their new schedule's not posted yet, I scoured the internet for it. Maybe someone else has it. Maybe I just didn't look hard enough. I don't know. But if I look and their schedule is similar to what it is this year, I'm going to predict them somewhere in the realm of like 7-10 in dual meets. They wrestled in 17 last year. They were 9-8. I don't think they can be that close to 7-10 is about as good as they can do. If this is the lineup they're putting out there with the competition they're going to wrestle, just because they don't shy away from competition either, as far as they can't, because within their conference, and they do wrestle some quality teams outside their conference. They go to Midlands, so they don't stay in their general area. They get out and they wrestle guys. It just doesn't always work out. And this one really pains me, but again, I'm not going with my heart on it. I'm going to say that Rob, they don't have an NCAA qualifier right now on this team, in my opinion. It's just too many gaping holes, too many unknowns, and just not a lot of wins in the EIWA tournament just coming back, just individual wins. Like, that's what it comes down to. I'd like to think it's different and say that they're going to have NCAA qualifiers, but I just don't see it. It's not there. I can't make something out of it. And no matter how many ways I spin it, I can't in my own mind, I can't convince myself otherwise. I don't know, Rob, you tell me maybe I'm wrong. Tell me different, or maybe you agree. I don't know.
I don't think they're going to be great. I think from the returning talent they have, they won't get any qualifiers. But just looking at how young they are and talented, I bet they get 2 to the tournament. Will be my prediction. But if they had 0 with this lineup, it wouldn't shock me. You're right.
If you were to pick 2 coming out of this lineup to get to make it,
Artelona and Zaf.
Artelona and Zaf, folks, you heard it here. He went out on a limb. It's not out of question. Maybe I'm the old crusty one of the two of us, and I'm going to think otherwise. But that is that's my prediction. I'm going to stick to it. Rob's got 2, so we'll see where we fall on that one. We should gotta keep tabs and put it out there so we can see how close we were on all these predictions later this year, end of the season.
Any fans out there that are keeping track, feel free to send us in so we don't have to listen to ourselves again and remember our predictions.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. Although I was listening back to us today from our Drexel preview on our interview with Acevedo, and listen back what Acevedo had to say and about the regional training center. And again, I'm not down on Penn. I need to be realistic of what they are right now. And what they are right now on a computer screen and paper might not be what they are during the season. These guys from this Penn program and Drexel, I said it before, and I hate to keep harping on it, but the fact that these two programs work so closely and they coincide and they coexist in a sense, they exist as separate entities, but they coexist in that regional training center, is very unique. And like I said, I just think it's really cool that these schools are coming together to help build not just their programs, not just their brands, but just wrestling in general. So from that standpoint, from all three things, it's just a great thing. I know everyone else has a lot of other places that have regional training centers, and people can get on me about that. But how many of those regional training centers are split by 2 Division I programs? That's what I'm getting at. And I don't know. The amount of kids that regional training centers are drawing in, that I know that Penn Army, and I have had kids that have gone to Lehigh Valley, the athletic club, and wrestle on Sundays during the season, stuff like that. I just think like the regional training center just does a great job, and Penn's going to start to reap the benefits of that. Drexel is maybe a little bit ahead of them right now, and they may stay a little bit ahead of them for several years, but Penn's going to catch up. Roger Reyna and his staff are Roger Reyna is no stranger to building programs. I mean, this is his second stint at Penn, and he's building it, and it just takes time. And he's doing it the right way. He's doing it slow, just like when we talked about with Coach Acevedo. They're doing it the right way, doing it their way, doing it slow, and building it through this regional training center and getting good quality kids in. And the kids that they're getting in are good, smart kids that work hard in the classroom as well. And it's one less thing you got to worry about when you're at a Penn, is worrying about academics. Typically, you don't have to worry about academics because you're getting kids that are higher functioning academically because they got in. So let's change gears now, Rob. And you were tasked with previewing your alma mater, the Bucknell Bison. And so I'll let you get started there, and I'll interject when asked and needed.
Had a lot of fun looking over Bucknell's lineup. No other way to put it. Last year was really difficult to watch. They were 14th in the EIWA, 3-14. These guys aren't going to make excuses that are working there, but there was a lot of injuries. They brought home a few trophies from the EIWA tournament in 2015-16. They took third. Sent 6 to nationals that year, I believe. So they're not too far removed from that. Third in the conference, the IWA is tough. You have Lehigh and Cornell kind of carve out that 1-2 spot almost every year. So they've brought home 2 or 3 trophies. Keep in mind, this program just came back 10, 12 years ago. I was in the second recruiting class in 2007. So definitely some good things on the horizon. So anyways, to their lineup, looking like Jacob Campbell or Gio Barzona at 125. Campbell was a guy, multiple-time PA State place winner. He started the year as the starter, was 2-8, got injured. Barzona entered. He ended up 9-14. Wrestled the IWA tournament, didn't place. And then behind them, you have Brett Residentis. Sorry, I butchered his name. And then Brandon Seidman, both freshmen, national prep place winners. So between them, you have 4 pretty young, decent recruits. They're not blue chips by any means, but you hope one of those guys can step up and really establish themselves as the starter. Looking ahead to 133, you have the other Campbell brother, David. He was 5-22 on the year. Not pretty, but he did place at the AIWA tournament. He got better as the year progressed. He's a kid that works really, really hard, so I think he's going to continue to improve. And he will be pushed by Joe Clock, who's a local kid, ended his high school career at Muncie with the state title. He improves month to month. The staff really knows him. They really like him. They've worked with him. So I think that's definitely a roster battle to watch between Campbell, who came on strong last year, and then a tough freshman coming in. You got Noah Levitt. I don't know if he'll be 133 or 141, but he's a 3-time Pennsylvania place winner, funky style, high motor. I liked watching him a lot in high school, and when Bucknell got him, I was pretty excited. So I'm excited to see if he ends up battling at 33 or 41. 41, the guys that I'm a little bit more sure about, Joey Gold. I think he's going to end up here. He was a place winner at the AIWA as a freshman. He's had some health and possibly some weight issues. Was a state champ from Becca, high upside. I expect that he's going to be holding down the 141 spot unless he can get back down to 33. And he'll be pushed by a gentleman, Carnell Andrews, another freshman. Another kid I watched a lot in high school. He was at the same weight as a kid, Zach Stediford, who's pretty good from NA. We had the same schedules then. We were both at the Powerade. We were both at Escape the Rock, so I got to watch him a lot. He can get to anyone's legs. He's got great speed. He finishes his shots. Was 5th at Flow as a junior, 5th in the state as a junior, and I think he had a skin condition or something of that nature as a senior, so didn't get to compete. But a guy that I think has really, really high upside. Joe, your thoughts on these guys?
I'm going to, Barzona and Campbell, both Pennsylvania guys. Campbell, a guy I personally know, had the privilege of covering throughout his high school career. He's was in that group of Boyertown guys I've spoken about before with Jordan Wood and Greg Harvey, the Campbell brothers. There's others I'm forgetting. These are the ones that ended up wrestling Division I. There's a few guys at Kutztown and stuff, but Campbell was the guy, like you said, until he got hurt, and I'd like to think that he does end up being the starter again, personally, from the standpoint that, know him and like him, very likable kid, great family, hard worker. But I think, if Campbell is healthy the whole season, I think him or Barzona, it's basically, I don't think either one is better equipped to be the starter than the other. It's, you're going to get similar results with each guy, somewhere in that 500 record realm. And, going to go out and grind out matches. 133 pounds, David Campbell, kid that I've always really admired. His brother was a multiple-time place winner at states and in high school. David never placed at the state tournament, but always super hard worker, real tough out every time he's out there on the mat and, gives it his all. And I think that the staff, as and we'll get to ask Coach LeValley about him. He's a guy that did come on late and, like you said, place EIWA. So I'm hopeful it was something that springboarded him to better things as a sophomore. And he already works really hard, and hopefully makes him work a little bit harder to be hungrier for more than just 5-22 for his sophomore campaign. 41, Gould is going to be a starter. in my opinion. I don't think he's going to go back down to 33. I think they're set where they are in those first three spots. It's nice that you go those first three spots, and we're talking all Pennsylvania kids right there. And really, like you talk about with Barzona and Campbell at 25, it's if that's a toss up, it's another PA kid, just like Levitt, it's Bucknell's built through that through Pennsylvania kids. So that's another always a good thing to see.
Yeah, absolutely. Unfortunately for the Pennsylvania homers, I think the starter at 49 will be Matt Colonna. He's a New Jersey guy. Matt, if you're listening, just giving you a hard time. Hope you have a good year. But he was 14-13, mostly tournament action. Maybe Andrews is big enough to push him at 49 if Gold establishes himself at 41. We will see. 57 is a weight. You have Christian Basilino was the starter last year. Not a great record. Personally, I would expect Zach Hartman to be the guy here. 3-time Pennsylvania State place winner. Had a really tough draw as a junior. I think he had Stillings in the quarters and then Eric Hong, NA guy, in the Russellbacks. But Hartman was in the finals last year. He had Starucci on the ropes. He's really, really good on top. I think that'll translate to the college game. And he's a physically strong kid. I think he's someone that's going to have a really nice year. And I expect him to, kind of springboard this class into big things. 65, you have DJ Hollingshed. He was ranked as high as 25 in the country by the RPI. I think he'll probably qualify next year. He was 18-12 last year, 20-15 the year before. He's physically strong. He's never wrestled well at the EWAs, but he's a tough kid. I think he'll end his senior year very similar to Barrick, how he did at Bucknell, where he had never qualified and then had a really nice year. So hoping for big things out of DJ. 74, Nick Stefanini. He's 12-16 last year, 0-2 at the EWAs. He's another Northeast PA kid. He's from Troy, state runner-up as a senior. Tough kid. I don't know what to expect out of him. He's probably around a 500 guy. If he could do more, great. But I don't expect to see him wrestling on Saturday night in March. Joe, your thoughts?
At 149 for the Bison, I agree with you with Matt Colonia from or for Bucknell, coming off a season which saw him go 14-12, like you said, is going to be the guy moving up from 141 to be their starter. At 57, you look at, they have a lot of guys listed on their roster, and you said you have an itch or a hunch that it's going to be Zach Hartman. What do you, Basilino being the former starter, what do you, with Mitch Hartman there on the roster listed at 57 as well, how do you think that shakes out, the brothers? Just not kind of get sidetracked away from it, but having two brothers the same weight class. I know they wrestled pretty close in the same weight while they were in high school, but now at this level, they're potentially at the same weight. What are your thoughts? That brotherly love there.
I hadn't given a whole lot of thought. Zach is obviously the bigger recruit. He's had more success at every level. I don't know if he could beat Mitch due to kind of big brother strength. I really don't have a clue. But honestly, I'd expect Zach's the most talented guy that's at this weight class. I think he's going to be the guy.
Yeah, I agree. I had the opportunity to watch Hartman since he's been a sophomore at least, between state duels and state tournaments and stuff. And you're right about the junior year. He gets Stillings in the quarters and has Hong, who got upset in the first rounds. And, as a result, he's got the tough road back at states because of that. So, when he had his opportunity and didn't get any tough draws, he makes the final. There's no draw at states that is not tough. Let's be honest. So I don't want to downplay it. But where, things maybe played out the way they should have, and he makes the final against Starucci and gives him all he wants and a little bit more, down to the wire. So, yeah, I agree 57 is going to be Hartman. But it'll be interesting because, you said the big brother mentality, big brother strength, could have the mental edge there between over his little brother, Zach. So that should be fun to follow. Agree about Hollingshead. He's poised to get to NCAAs this year, as long as things go his way. And, Stefanini, again, another senior. needs to step his game up though this year, and I talked about with the Penn preview, and you've heard me say about turn that corner. It's one of those situations where his back's against the wall. His career is coming to an end sooner rather than later. You got to go out and go out guns blazing and do the best he can to be a 500 wrestler, maybe a little bit more, and provide depth. A tough out at that weight for the Bison for dual meets and prepare himself for that final run in the postseason.
Yeah, absolutely. And then probably the two best guys on Bucknell's roster coming up next. Drew Phipps, he was a EIWA place winner, a good recruit coming out of high school. Yeah, I think he was a 4-time Pennsylvania State qualifier, 3-time place winner. Was ranked as high as 27th in the RPI last year. Was an alternate to wrestle in the Nationals. He actually made weight at the tournament. But he needs to take a big jump. He can't be the guy that's 29th qualifying next year. Really, they need him to be a top 12, top 15 guy at a minimum. And I think he's capable. He beat Lafranga from Brown last year, who was ranked 15th, 16th all year. So he's shown the ability. He's a really smart wrestler. He's tough in all three positions. I think he's set for a breakout year. Garrett Hoffman. This guy, interesting story. He was an NCAA qualifier in 17. Couldn't hold 84 anymore, so he bumped up basically to back up Tom Slay. Slay gets hurt. Hoffman enters the lineup, beats Kassar. Then Hoffman gets hurt, so he had to miss the rest of the year. I talked to LeValley a few weeks ago. He says Hoffman's strong as a horse. He really has a crazy pace. He makes a lot of mistakes, but he makes up for them just with his grit, his tenacity. He can put people on their back with cradles. He's really fun to watch. He's a little bit unorthodox, but certainly a guy that's going to wrestle a lot faster than a lot of the kids he's going to see at 97. And then at heavyweight, Brandon Stokes, he's a local boy from Milton. He was actually at 174 and bumped up mid-year to heavyweight. Ended up 1-2 at the EIWA. He's 10-18 on the year. He's small, but he wrestles his butt off. He gives a lot of heavyweights problems. He's pretty short and stout, so he's tough to get to. And then Eric Chaconis, he's probably one of the more talented guys on the roster. He's a 2-time New Jersey State champ. Was hurt last year. Realistically, if Bucknell is going to have a good year, he needs to get in the lineup and be an EIWA place winner, because as much as Stokes is fun to watch, he's limited with his size. He's just not big enough. So Chaconis hopefully can take that step forward and start crunching some people up. Joe, your thoughts on the big boys over at Bucknell?
So Phipps is a guy that, like you said, he had a real good scholastic career and is finding his way at this level, but totally agree. He needs to be a top 12 type guy throughout the season. As far as rankings go and as far as matches he's winning, I think he qualifies for NCAAs. And, once there, again, like we talk about all the time, like anything can happen. You can get hot the right weekend. You get a few, big moves, you know what's going to happen. Same with Hoffman. Hoffman's another guy that, had a lot of hype around him coming out of high school. Not that it's gone, not that he didn't live up to it. He's just, he's hit some roadblocks. And I'm hoping now that, at 97, he's grown into it and he can flourish at this weight class and, qualify for NCAAs and who knows what after that. He's a big athletic guy at that weight class and, he help or not help. He can use that to his advantage to give some of the guys maybe not as athletic some fits and, propel to win some matches. And then you go at heavyweight or 285, however you want to say it. It's one of those things. Will Chaconis be healthy? Will he be able to put it together? I'm not seeing Stokes wrestle, but now that you gave an explanation of the guy, I'm intrigued. I want to see this guy wrestle and give some fits. And the fact he's a 74-pounder midseason bumps to heavyweight further, like that's the stuff of legend right there that can make him definite fan favorite and make some fans, people knowing that story about him. So I'm glad you brought that up because that was not something that I knew, and knowing that, former 174 pounder, like I said, just makes me want to see that guy wrestle that much more. So, Rob, wrapping it up, what do you got for prediction for your Bison? I mean, you can have the orange and blue glasses on. It's okay because, maybe if your prediction is a little bit audacious, I'll bring us back down to reality.
Last year was really hard to watch. One NCAA qualifier. I think this year we're going to get guys in at 65, 84, 97, and I'm saying 57. I'm saying Hartman is going to get to the tournament. So I'm putting 4 guys here in Pittsburgh in March. They can crash at my house if they need to. Actually, they can't. But I think 4th, probably around a 500 dual record, and somewhere in the middle of the EIWA tournament. How about you?
As far as qualifiers go, I'm going to say, so you said 57. You say Hartman qualifies, Hollingshead, Phipps, and Hoffman?
Yep.
I'm going to agree with 3 of those 4. I'm going to say they get 3, and it's going to be Hollingshead, Phipps, and Hoffman get to the big dance. If there's going to be a 4th one, I would say probably its best chance would be Hartman, but I'm not sold yet.
I'm looking at Joey Gold. We might be getting 5 guys to Pittsburgh, hopefully.
Oh, now look, you're wavering, you're changing, man. Come on, what is it?
I'm sticking with 4.
Can't dispel that. I just think Hartman, definitely super talented kid, tough kid, but just a little apprehensive on my end to anoint him an NCAA qualifier. Like I said, you have the orange and blue glasses on. Mine are clear lensed, and I'm looking at it a little bit differently than you. So I'm going to say 3 they get, and I'm going to say out of that 3, no All-Americans. But I'm going to put an asterisk next to it because I think when Phipps and Hoffman are seniors, they both get on. I'm going to make an early prediction 2 years down the road that Phipps and Hoffman are on the podium as seniors.
That would be really nice. We haven't had an All-American since LeValley in 11. We had 2 the year before with LeValley and Andy Rendos. So certainly, the more the merrier.
Yeah, there's talent on this roster, and some of it's young, some of it's not. Bucknell's in a way better position than Penn, who we just previewed, and I definitely think they're poised to do some good things. I think 500 is probably very realistic. They again, Bucknell, I will get a chance to talk to Coach LeValley about it. Bucknell's not shy from competition either. They're going to go out. I believe they got Penn State coming to Bucknell this year, and they're hoping to sell it out. We'll get to ask Coach LeValley about that in the next segment. But they don't back down. They go out and they wrestle just like Penn. That's how you get better. You got to get your guys at the top level competition. And so I think it's realistic. And middle of the pack for EIWA, I think is probably middle to in around 10th place, somewhere around there. No worse than 10th place, I think, because they'll get guys that'll get to EIWAs and win some matches. Some guys that got there before, you're going to bring back, guys that have W's there that are help, push that point total forward. So, Rob, anything else on your alma mater?
No, just fingers crossed for a good year for the Bison with very little injuries. That's all I can really ask for because last year it was just brutal. Guys were dropping like flies.
Yeah, it's so tough to watch when it happens. One injury isn't enough, but when it's multiple and it snowballs. Literally
two NCAA qualifiers at 197 between Slay and Hoffman. It's like Slay goes down and you're thinking, okay, well, we have Hoffman. Slay's a stud, but Hoffman's not bad. And then Hoffman goes down. It was unbelievable. It was tough to watch. So again, we'll talk in the next segment. Talk with Coach LeValley about Bucknell and the Bison of 2018, 2019. Talk about Penn tonight. Wish Bucknell, both of them, best of luck. Enjoy the next segment with Coach LeValley, and we'll be able to pick his brain and give you hopefully give you some insight about the program, and maybe you get to learn some about the program and about what he's about. And so hope you enjoy that, and we're looking forward to the opportunity to interview him too. I know Rob is Rob's boy, right? Yeah, we came in the same class. I've known him since I've been 19 years old. He's a great guy, and just someone that I'm glad to have at my alma mater. That's for sure.
So, luckily we got Rob's got connections to hook us up. That's going to put a wrap on the preview. So, stay tuned as we transition over to the open room interview with Coach LeValley, Kevin LeValley from Bucknell. So, that's all we got. And it's Joe Youngblood and Rob signing off from this segment, and pick you up on the other side. Take care.
Hey, listeners, today is our special guest. We have Kevin LeValley. Kevin was a teammate of mine for 4 years at Bucknell. He was a two-time All-American there, and now he is the assistant coach at Bucknell University. Great guy. I always tell people he is tougher than a $2 steak, and it really works harder than anyone I've ever been around. So fortunate to have him on to talk a little bit about what's going on in Lewisburg, some of the cool things happening with the new facility, the team's outlook, and Joe. So take it away.
And Kevin, thanks for, like I said, I said off air, thanks for carving out some time for us. Really appreciate you sitting down with us. Let's start off. Your outlook for this season. Who's they maybe have a breakout year for you. Possible All-Americans, team-wise. So we'll start with your lineup. What's your outlook looking at for the 2018-19 Bucknell Bison?
Last season we were really hampered by injuries throughout our lineup and throughout the season. So we've got some key returners that are going to be coming back from injury this year and looking to make a stamp on their seasons here. At 125, I think about Jacob Campbell, whose season was cut short due to injury. At 197, I think about Garrett Hoffman, whose season was also cut short due to injury. And then even at 141, we got a guy named Joey Gould, who battled some injuries last season, and he's looking to get back in the lineup and make a name for himself here at Bucknell. With that being said, we've got some incoming freshmen that we're really, really excited about. We got a kid named Joe Cluck out of Muncie. He's a Pennsylvania state champ this past season. He's looking to make an impact right away. We got another guy named Zach Hartman out of Bell Vernon who's looking to make a splash in our lineup right away as well. So those are just some of the names that come off the top of my head. But I'd say as a whole, we're looking forward to an injury-free season and really seeing what these guys can put together when the focus is on wrestling and training on a daily basis and continuing to get better throughout the season.
So just recently, your schedule was released publicly. Obviously, something that you've known about for probably quite some time. Looking at the level of competition you're wrestling, Penn State before the semester break, Pitt before the semester break, over Christmas going to Midlands. Navy, Lehigh, you go down the list, North Carolina. You guys, you definitely got a really nice schedule this year. Tell us a little bit about the challenges and, potential pitfalls that might be in that schedule for you guys.
I think one thing we do a really good job of at Bucknell is putting together a tough schedule every single year. And yes, it challenges our guys on a weekly basis, but at the same time, it gives our guys the best opportunity to have those wins that are necessary to punch their ticket to the NCAA tournament. The way that qualifying for the NCAA tournament works these days, it's advantageous to have multiple opportunities throughout the season to beat some guys that are in that top 10, top 15, top 20 range, and you start beating 2 or 3 or 4 of those guys, and all of a sudden it can be January or February, and you can sit back and say, hey, no matter how this conference tournament goes, I'll be sitting at the NCAA tournament. So we're giving our guys some opportunities to wrestle the best guys in the country. Obviously, Penn State is a huge home dual meet for us. It means a lot for our program. It means a lot for our benefactor, Bill Graham. One of the dreams and visions when the program was reinstated was to one day pack Soika Pavilion for something other than a basketball game. And I think on Friday, November 30th at 7 p.m., when the Bison come running out of the tunnel, we're going to have between 3,500 and 4,000 people there. Granted, there will be a lot of Penn State fans there. That's just the nature of the beast. But at the same time, it's given our guys that opportunity to wrestle at home, to wrestle in Soika Pavilion, and to try to knock off some guys that are going to punch their tickets to the NCAA tournament.
Yeah. So again, looking at, let's compare this to your days in as a Bison and the schedule. Was Coach Warrensberger able to put together this type of schedule for when you guys, I should say, you and Rob both competed for Bucknell?
He was. Like I said, it's always been a focus of Bucknell wrestling as far as a focus of scheduling and scheduling the best guys in the country. During my time and Rob's time as student athletes, we were able to wrestle at Oklahoma State. We wrestled at Iowa. We wrestled Iowa at home, Missouri at home. So it's not quite a Big Ten type of schedule where we're wrestling a top 10 team every single weekend. But at the same time, we definitely had those opportunities for those big wins.
All right, so, Colorado, born and bred, small town from what I understand. You come to Bucknell to wrestle. You leave, go to Minnesota, while you're doing your grad work and wrestling on the international scene and having success there. And then job opens up at Bucknell. What was the draw to come back?
My time at Minnesota was perfect for me, to be 100% honest with you. When I graduated from Bucknell in 2011, I thought it was important to see how another program operated. And, I was able to work underneath some great coaches there and Jay Robinson and Brandon Eggum and Luke Becker and Jason Ness, and train with some awesome guys, Zach Sanders and Dustin Schlater, just to name a couple. And I really learned a lot there in my time as a resident athlete / grad assistant at the University of Minnesota. But, eventually it comes time to start to move up the ladder. And Lewisburg, Pennsylvania is a pretty special place, not only in my heart, but it's really an awesome community. Bucknell University is really an awesome place. And I have a ton of faith and trust in Coach Warrensberger. Obviously, he was my head coach and Rob's head coach during our 4 years at Bucknell. And I think that speaks volumes as far as how much faith and trust I have in not only Coach Warrensberger, but in Bucknell University in Lewisburg, Pennsylvania, as far as choosing that place and this place to bring my wife and start a family.
All right, so, wrestling aside, and we had Coach Acevedo on from Drexel last week, and talked to him about cheesesteaks in Philadelphia and things like that. So you brought up Lewisburg and being a special place in Pennsylvania. What's one maybe food unique to Lewisburg or out there kind of like northeast / central PA where you're located that maybe is different from something that you've experienced in Colorado or your travels?
Yeah, and in fact, I'm excited. Thursday night we're having some chicken and waffles. Down here, I live about 10 miles out of town in a little community called Crotzerville, and we're going to the Crotzerville Carnival. We're going to grab some chicken and waffles, and that's something I had never experienced growing up in eastern Colorado, and had never really experienced until I moved out here and was a student athlete at Bucknell. And when I went out to Minnesota, they didn't really have a whole lot of chicken and waffles, and really didn't know what that was. So I'm excited for Thursday night chicken and waffles at the Crotzerville Carnival. Nice.
Going to the Bloomsburg Fair this fall?
Thinking about it. We'll see if the schedule allows.
So, Kevin, Rob here. Being on like the coaching side, obviously, we both competed at Bucknell. I've never been a Division I coach. What would you say some of the advantages being at a small school would be, and possibly some of the challenges that you might go through on a daily, weekly, yearly basis?
I think the advantages that Bucknell really offers our student athletes is there's no place to hide. We've got about 3,700 undergrads here at Bucknell, only a couple hundred grad students. Our student-faculty ratio is super competitive. Our average class size is super competitive. Your professors here at Bucknell know who you are. People on campus, faculty, staff, students know who you are. They know you're a Bucknell wrestler. They know you're a student athlete, and they probably know you by first name. So when I say there's no place to hide, it's also hard to fall through the cracks here at a place like Bucknell. I think that's something special that we can offer, student athletes that are looking for a place where they can make a name for themselves, and looking for a place where they can get a personalized quality education, where they're building the relationships and doing the networking necessary to ensure they're going to have success, not only during their 4 years here as a student athlete, but after they graduate during their 40-year professional career.
I'm not going to let you off the hook because I also asked about disadvantages. What maybe is different about Bucknell versus a Penn State, Ohio State, Missouri?
I'm going to go right back to there's no place to hide. It's different. If we have a student athlete who misses one class, I might not hear about it, but if we have a student athlete that misses 2 classes, I'm going to get either an email, a text message, or a professor is going to walk down into our wrestling offices and say, hey, so-and-so missed a class. Are they doing okay? Do they need more resources? Is there anything that we can do to help make sure that they're as successful as possible in this course? So, that no place to hide is kind of a double-edged sword. Yes, you get the quality education that you want to have and the personalized education that you're looking for, but at the same time, if you're not doing things right, then people know about it. So I think it's the right place for the right type of kid. I think that's probably the best way to put it.
Kevin, so switching gears a little bit, talk to us about the new facility, the RTC, because I kind of call them one and the same. I mean, I was up there, I guess, a couple years ago for Jay Hahn's wedding. That thing is awesome. Can you talk to us a little bit more about it? Just walk us through and what the RTC means to the program and just the area in general.
Yeah, without a doubt. We're 2 years deep, starting year 3 in our Graham Wrestling Training Center. It all goes back to our benefactor, Bill Graham, who not only was the leading force in reinstating wrestling at Bucknell, but was a leading force in building what's called the Graham Building, which is a 36,000 square foot building connected to the rest of our athletic facilities. The first floor of that building is an 18,000 square foot student health and wellness center, and the wrestling training facility operates on the second floor. It's an 18,000 square foot wrestling training facility. And what's really unique about it is everything that our student athletes need in order to be successful is located in that facility. We've got about 5,000 square feet of mat space. We have a weightlifting area. We have a cardio area. But on top of that, our student athlete locker room, our student athlete lounge, our coaches' offices, coaches' locker room, and our athletic training room are all located right there. So the guys on our roster really don't have to travel across campus. Our facility is right in the middle of campus. They don't have to travel across campus or off campus to get to where they need to be. And everything, once they come to practice, as far as preparation for practice and after practice routines, is located right there. It's state of the art. I think it's one of the best facilities in the country, no doubt. As far as where it ranks, I guess it depends on what you look at as far as the most important factors in ranking the best facilities in the country. We might not have the biggest facility, but at the same time, our roster caps 36 student athletes, and for 36 student athletes, I think it's the perfect size.
So, Kevin, something we ask every coach so far that we've had on, and you being our third, talk to us what the advantage of being in Pennsylvania when it comes to recruiting and getting visibility to potential student athletes. Talk to us about how the Pennsylvania wrestlers maybe differ. Looking at your roster, you have a nice mix of New Jersey, New York, Pennsylvania, and a few others from other parts of the country sprinkled in. But you seem to get that tri-state area hit pretty well. What sets Pennsylvania apart, if at all?
I don't think there's much of a doubt. Pennsylvania is the best high school wrestling state in the country. So when it comes down to having recruits make unofficial visits, when it comes down to allowing our coaching staff easy access to some of the best recruits in the country within a 1, 2, 3, 4 hour drive. It makes the recruiting process a little bit easier here, where when we're on the recruiting trail, I don't really think we have to spend a lot of time flying. We don't have to fly across the country to go get one of the best guys when the best guys are in our own backyard. So I think that makes recruiting a little bit easier for us. You couple that with the regional training centers and what that has done to recruiting at the Division I level. Obviously, regional training center practices, not during the high school season. High school student athletes that are able to qualify for those RTC practices can participate. So obviously it's an advantage to have some of the best local high school wrestlers in the state of Pennsylvania that are able to come and train in our facility during designated workouts. And that helps us on the recruiting trail as well.
All good stuff there, Kevin. And something that we've just recently started, and we're still, in our infant stages of doing this college podcast. Rob comes up with a what if question to end it, and it's kind of a little fun we get to have. We preface a little bit off air, so I'm gonna turn over to Rob here, and he'll hit you with it.
Yeah, so we'll do the what if or the would you rather, and then we'll let you do your pitch at the end. But the would you rather, LeValley. Number one, would you rather play Coach Wernsberger week's worth of pay in a round of golf? And for everyone out there that doesn't know, Werns is a really good golfer, so probably wouldn't end well for Kevin. Or would you rather put a week's pay up and take on Dave Marble, manager of athletic development? We used to call him Chubby Willpower in college. Would you rather challenge him to a wing eating contest? Which would you choose if you had to pick one?
Well, I'm a rules guy, and I can't wager on NCAA sports. Golf is an NCAA sport, so I'd go with the wing eating challenge with Dave Marble.
Good answer. I guess next time I shouldn't be asking that. I should come up with something else, maybe bowling or that might be. Is that an NCAA sport? I'm not sure. I guess UFC isn't, because Azevedo could answer that. All right, good to know. I won't make that mistake again. But Kevin, before we sign off, could you give us, I guess, your 30-second elevator pitch for Bucknell? I know you went over a lot during the podcast, but if there's anything else you want to get out there that you weren't able to share, please do it now.
Awesome. I think Bucknell University is a really special place. Our program is still relatively young post-reinstatement. And if student athletes are out there and they're looking for a place where they can have the best of both worlds as far as an elite education at a quality private liberal arts institution and wrestle at the Division I level where they're going to be guaranteed the quality of competition necessary to give themselves the best chance to make a mark for themselves in the sport of wrestling, then I think Bucknell's the place for that stop.
Well, Kevin, that's you probably kept it right to 30 seconds. You probably taken a little bit longer, but you did a great job there. Again, thanks for coming on. Thanks for talking about Bucknell. We wish you the best from PA Power Wrestling, and looking forward to seeing you guys compete this year. Definitely will be checking in at some point in time, whether with you, Coach Wernsberger, or maybe some of your wrestlers if we get the opportunity. So that'll wrap it up for another week here on the Open Room with Rob and Joe. Thanks for tuning in, and as always, visit PAPowerWrestling.com for all your wrestling needs. Follow us on Twitter at PA Power Wrestle. Give us a thumbs up on Facebook, and check us out on Instagram. Don't forget, fans, you can subscribe to the PA Power Podcast on iTunes and listen to all 3 shows on Spotify. If you want to send any suggestions or questions for the show, email us at collegetalk@PAPowerWrestling.com. Again, this is Joe Youngblood and Rob Walko, and thank you to Kevin LeValley for coming on this week. Thank you and take care.
Thanks, guys.